we're learning about the 5 voices that were at Mount Sinai and why it says in the Talmud that a person who makes a groom happy at a bride, at a wedding, a chatan, musamech at a chatan, that he merits to these 5 voices that the Torah was given in. And it's, what are these 5 voices? In this week's portion, this week's reading, it says 5 times kol shofar, kol otobrakim, kol. It says a kol shofar twice and kol otobrakim, and then it says aneni b'kol. So 5 times is mentioned the word kol, which is a voice, at Mount Sinai. So these 5. Also the same thing is, there is a prophecy from Yirmiyah, Jeremiah the prophet, and it says that so it will be in the future redemption. There will be kol sason, kol simcha, kol kasim, kol kala, like a big wedding. It says from this we learn that if you're at a wedding and you make a groom happy, as you merit to the 5 voices that the Torah was given. And so now the Rebbe is explaining, what do these voices have to do with the Torah? And what's the whole thing have to do with a chatan and a kala? Why, if you just make a chatan happy, you get these 5 voices? So what are the 5 voices? What do they got to do with the Torah? What do they got to do with the chatan? What does the chatan got to do with the Torah? Let's tie the whole thing up together. There must be some underlying, unifying principle which is more real than all of these phenomena, namely of the giving of the Torah and getting married and the 5 voices. There has to be something over here that unifies. So the Rebbe says, what is a thing of a voice? What is in 5 voices? A voice is something that comes out of a person. It was hidden inside of the person, and then it comes out. Or inside of an animal, inside of anything. It's hidden, and a voice is something that's revealed. Says the Rebbe the same thing. At Mount Sinai, there were 5 voices that were revealed. What are these voices? Well, God's voice is what the world is created from. God creates the world from His voice. That's what we believe. So God creates the world, and He creates the world with 5 voices. Why 5 voices? Because each voice is different from the other. So 5 different creative forces. In physical, what we can see with our own eyes, one creation of God is the mineral. Mineral is called domim. It's silent. Doesn't move, doesn't talk. No, you don't see any life in it whatsoever, even though everything has a soul. But this is what we call an inanimate soul. Another type of a creation of God, which is a totally different dimension of life and consciousness, is plants. Plants, we see, have a soul. They grow, and they have mobility, right? They move toward the sun, etc. Then we have another totally different dimension of reality, and that's called the animal. Animal is even more mobile. The Rebbe will explain it more. And more alive, if you want to call it, a totally different dimension of life. It has the much more revealed feelings and interrelationships. And then above that, the 4th dimension is human. Human is a dimension which is 4 dimensions above that of the rock. Right? You can see the soul, you can see the person grows, he moves, etc. So a human. So those are the 4 voices. 5 voices to show that the Torah is above all of these. 5 is to show the Torah is above this. That's what we got up to. I think that we are now on paragraph number 3. Yes, paragraph number 3, page 115. And again, this is found in Lakuti Sichos of the Rebbe, Chelik Vav 6. This is not right yet. And this, what we're learning now, is a sikha of the Rebbe, which the Rebbe said in the year 1957. So this is just 6 years after he assumed the leadership of Chabad. Okay, Gimel. Kavan, since Einenu Yochalim, since we're not able. One second, did we do this? 1 minute.
I think so.
Just 1 minute. Did we do this? No, we did not do it. Gimel. Even since she'einenu yochalim, we are not able hasik to grasp, to really understand inyanim ruchanim, spiritual things as they are. Ela be'emsa'ot inyanim, only through physical things, which come from them. For instance, it says that the angels fly, the angels have wings. We have no idea what this means. We look at a bird, we can understand what it means, something flies, something has wings. Now we can. Other places, the angels are compared to fish, that they're one with their. So we look at a fish, we can see a little bit what a fish is, we understand. But what an angel is, we can't understand. What the spiritual worlds are, Atzilus Bria, we have no understanding. But we, at least from the physical results of these spiritual worlds, we can have a little bit, we have the ability, we can get a sort of an estimation, and a little bit of understanding, shel makoram, of the source. By looking at the physical, we can understand a little bit of their source. There's a beautiful mimer in Chabad, which is said by the fourth Rebbe of Chabad, Rabbi Shmuel. It's called Mi Kamocha. It's the name of the mimer, Mi Kamocha. I think it's in Taf Reish Chav Zayin, which translates in 1867. And there he talks about all these spiritual levels. What is the spirit? Takes an example of a rooster crowing. That's a physical world. And then in the world of Yetzirah, it has another source, the angel Gabriel, whatever. And then above that it has the Gevura, and above that is. So each of these things has a spiritual source. By looking at the physical, we can estimate what the spiritual source. Shehema inyanim meruchnim. These are spiritual things. The spiritual source of rocks, spiritual source of plants. Today, in order and then we can even understand a little bit about the 4 letters of the name of God, because these 4 letters in the name of God, that creates both the spiritual and the physical. And by means of this, by means of this, we can understand the amazing highness of what is the Torah. The Torah was given in 5 voices. In other words, do not think that the Torah is part of the world. The world comes from the Torah. Even human beings come from the Torah. So the Torah is like the 5 voices. Shem Hashem, which is, the Torah is even above the name of God, because the name of God, Yud Kei Vav Kei, that's the source of these 4 worlds, Atzilus Bria, or the source of these 4 phenomena of life: plant, animal, rock, plant, animal, human. That's the source of this. And the Torah is even above that. So the Torah is even above the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's above this name of God. There's a lot of names of God. The Torah comes from God's essence. Asher Ev Shel Hasi, we can understand according to Havanat Arba Sugim. We can understand a little bit more by making another and a little bit deeper analysis of these 4 types of life, namely mineral, plant, animal, and human. That this corresponds to the 4 letters of God's name, Baruch Hu, blessed be He, that from it they evolve. Hayavdo ben Doman. What's the difference between mineral and plant? Is bedomim in minerals, rocks, nikeres rak chumis aguf. All you can see is the physicality of it. The lo shum tenua chiyuni. It has no motion of its own, no volition of its own. A rock can be pulled down by gravity. Water, same thing, it can be pushed. Even air, even fire. They go according to their nature. Let's just take the simple example of rocks. Rocks, even though they have a soul, but someach, in plant, it is recognized the life in it. We can't grasp it. We did this yesterday. We did do it yesterday. Yeah. Okay.
It's better today.
Huh?
It's better today.
Better today.
Better tomorrow.
I'll just say it in English because we did this. A plant, you can see that a plant is alive. An even bigger difference is between a plant and an animal, and a plant and an animal and a human. Those 3 have something similar to them, namely what? You can see the spirit which is inside of them. There's some sort of a personality that they have. I have the difference between them is only how that is revealed. How is revealed? Animal and man has more of a personality. They're less attached to the ground, if you want to call it. They're more mobile. But nevertheless, in general, plants are closer to rocks than they are to animals and people. Ad until shekasher, when mechalkim et arba adargot, when you divide these 4 different levels, mineral, plant, animal, and human, if you want to divide them, it's easier to divide them into 2 categories, namely body and soul. If so, the dominant thing in plants is their body, just like a rock. The soul of a plant is not the main thing. That's why it's called someach. Someach means that the only nature that it has is that it grows. It's not alive. Chai is an animal that has life. To the degree that after the flood, it was an obligation to eat. Until the flood destroyed the world in the time of Noah, which was like 1,500 years, something like that, after the creation of the world. 1,500 years, it was forbidden to eat animals. People could only eat plants. Couldn't eat animals. There is one opinion that says that you couldn't kill an animal and eat it, but if the animal already was dead, it died of its own, then you could eat it. But nevertheless, in that way, it's similar to a plant or to a rock. So in other words, animals and humans are somewhat in the same category. Why? What's the difference with this? The reason is besug shel chai, and animals achayos hu nafshit. The life of an animal is a soul thing. You can see that it's a spiritual force in the physical. Therefore, an animal has what we call koach ratzon. It has will, free will. an animal can go toward and run away from things. Shabo mitbater nefesh, that's the soul. It runs toward pleasure, goes away from pain. So it is also in the body of an animal. There's another thing. An animal reacts automatically to things because the soul is united with its body. Ad shehu b'mahuto, to the soul of an animal is the nature of the animal. On the other hand, plants, lozu bilvad, not only that shechayoto enu mashpia v'goremes l'shinoi b'mahut haguf, their life does not cause their body to change. They don't run away from things. They don't run toward things. Automatically, they do point toward the sun. It's true. But the life that's them is totally subservient to their body. Kol muhutam is that is matzmiach. Only thing you can say about a plant that you can see that its life is that it grows. It grows, but it does not react to the surroundings. Either it grows or it dies. That's all it does. An animal is not so. An animal can run away, an animal can run toward, etc. The difference between Dalet, the difference between plant and animal, is bein hayeter gam b'kach sheheto tzmichato shel tzameach taluya biyoto shatul b'makom mesuyam. The difference between an animal and a plant, namely that an animal exhibits a soul and a plant does not. A plant just exhibits a body that grows. One of the reasons is because a plant has to be attached to the ground. Kasher opimoto, if you remove it from the ground, hu ma'abed et chayuto, it loses its life. But if we're talking about an animal, exactly the opposite. It has to be separate from the ground. Animal mugbalas, it is not limited in this way to be attached to one place on the ground or to be attached to the ground at all. You can take animals and they can move around. They migrate. They move from one place to another. Much more mobile. The reason is davar gashmi. A physical thing is limited to a place, and since that the life of plants is, like we say, chayot gufnis, is mainly 99.9% is the body of the plant, therefore it's limited to a specific place. It can't move around on its own. But to contrast this with Kivan shehiyoto shel chai, because the life of an animal is spiritual, like we said before. You can see in an animal a life force. It can look at you, it can be afraid, it can express emotions. Therefore, enu mugbal kol kach b'makom, because there's much more spirituality in an animal than there is in a plant. Therefore, it's not an animal is not so limited to one place. Okay, so what are we saying over here? The Torah was given in 5 voices. 4 of those voices indicate the creation. The creation is mainly expressed in these 4 different categories of life. Mineral, plant, animal, and human. Mineral is not mobile at all. It doesn't express any soul either. That's why it's not mobile. Plant is a little bit mobile. It moves up toward the sun. It grows, but nevertheless, it still does not exhibit much of a soul. That's why it's stuck in one place, because it's mainly physical. The essence of the plant is the body of the plant, which is not the case. An animal has a soul. An animal has a soul, and that's why one of the reasons why, if you want to eat an animal, you have to kill the animal. Right? Even a non-Jew, it's forbidden for him to eat a live animal. But anyone can eat a vegetable or fruit, right? Because the body of the thing the body of the thing hasn't got much of a soul at all. It's not as though you're really technically killing it. Even the biggest vegans or whatever, they say you can eat plants. Plants have got no problem, right? Because plants don't have a living soul, which is not the case of an animal. An animal has a living soul. It has a, I want to call it a spiritual force to it. And therefore an animal is much more mobile than a plant. Hey, paragraph 5. Kashem, just like there's a difference between domim, mineral, and plant, the difference between mineral and plant is very great. Even more, harba yoter me'asher hevdel ben someach lebein achai. In one way, it's much greater. The difference between a rock and a plant is greater than the difference between a plant and an animal. Why? Because at least a plant and an animal are alive. A rock is dead. Like we said before, limurot sheshneim, even though that both of them mishtayechim l'sug shel guf, and even though that the plant and the animal, on the other hand, that the plant and the rock and the mineral, both are what dominates them is their body. Minerals and plants, the body dominates. Kach av yoter, even more, the gabi shtei dargot besug shel nefesh. Also, the same thing is, let's now compare animal and human. She amedaber, that a human is different totally from an animal. Why? Adam, a person, Bechir Nivroim, is the chosen of the creations. The Kol Nivroim and all the creations, including animals, were created in order to serve man. Okay, Herschel. So there's a tremendous difference between a rock and a plant. Namely, a plant exhibits life and a rock does not. On the other hand, there's also a tremendous difference between a plant and an animal. An animal exhibits its soul, and a plant does not. An animal is much more mobile. A plant is joined to the ground, something like a rock, can't move. It moves up. An animal, though, is much more mobile. An animal exhibits its soul. You have to kill an animal before you eat it if you want to eat it. So there's a tremendous difference between a mineral and a plant, and a tremendous difference between a plant and an animal. But in one way, the difference between an animal and a human is even greater. Why? Because animals are in the same category as plants and minerals. Namely, they were all created in order to serve man. Kashem shemavdil at the domim mikol shara sugim, just like rocks, minerals, are different from the other three types. Af minat samech, even totally different from the plant. Mitbateh bakach, because it is shenikeret rock hachumiyot, because in the minerals all there is the body. You can't see any soul at all. Haguf shaladomim, the physicality of the minerals, of the rocks. Kefi shehuz bar, like we explained before. Kach, also the other way around. The difference between medaber, the difference between man and all the other three types below him. Af minachai, even the difference between a man and an animal. Hu shebemid medaber, and a human being. Nikiris and misios shel nefesh. In a man, you can see the true expression of a soul and spirituality, as we're going to see later on. And only in human beings is truly revealed this idea of the soul. Good? Now we'll